And welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. To keep the conversation going, don't forget to follow us on our Twitter handle. That's at Kokgwin O Ochoro, at Bore Collins, hashtag GBS Morning Extra to keep the conversation going. Today with us in studio is our political analyst, Collins Bore. Collins, karibu sana.
Thank you very much for having me.
Habari ya weekend.
Nzuri kabisa. Yes.
Now, today, Collins, over the weekend we've seen the politics that have been going around, and of course, a lot going around.
Yes.
A lot have been going on. We still have the BBI/2022 noise being made.
Yes.
The dynasty versus hustler nation politics still being pushed.
True.
Despite the president, of course, a week or so,
Yes.
Playing down this and also condemning those who have the narrative that there are dynasties in Kenya. And also, of course, I would also like to engage you a little bit and maybe talk to our viewer about Ruto's intention by launching this narrative of hustler versus dynasty nations.
Yes.
Maybe as we start, I would like us first to speak about the Kibera by-election,
Yes.
which has clearly shown, allowed the ugly division within the Jubilee camp to rear its head.
Yes.
You remember what happened last week?
Yes, true.
The party pulled out from the race in the spirit of supporting the handshake.
The handshake.
Then
yes.
a little bit later after that, I think after a lot of noise from the Tanga team, the party again decides to field candidates.
Yes.
Again, we hear about, lists or letters that came from the party, purportedly signed by the Secretary General, who later refutes and says, I did not send this letter. I don't even know about this. I know I was approached about these candidates, but I did not know about the letter. So what do you make of that?
Yeah. So that
does Jubilee stand a chance in Kibera?
Of course, it's really hard for them. It's going to be a tall order as far as the politics of Kibera is concerned. But that exposes the kind of divisions that we have in the Jubilee Party as at now. Yes. Because already it's in public domain. It's no longer rocket science.
Although they're still denying.
Of course, they would deny it in public. But if you see what they say and how they say it, you realize that there are divisions. There is one camp that is loyal to President Uhuru, and there is another one that is loyal to the Deputy President.
Yes.
And if what we read is anything to go by, then you realize that it is the Deputy President who is fronting a candidate in Jubilee. So that tells you that he's already preparing his ground for the 2022 politics. So he's trying to test and see whether he will be able to convince some of the electorate in Kibera. And you remember in the run-up to 2017 elections, he fielded a candidate, or Jubilee fielded a candidate in Langata. Then it was considered to be an ODM stronghold.
An ODM stronghold.
Yes, because of course it has been represented by the former Prime Minister for some time.
Yeah.
But things
for
changed.
A long time.
For a long time, actually. But things changed, and you see, we had a Jubilee candidate carrying the day. So I think the Deputy President is still trying to, see whether he can convince, areas that were seen or that are seen to be, ODM stronghold. And you can even look at the past by-elections that we have had, like in Wajir and in Embakasi South. Yes. So we saw him come out clearly. Although Jubilee did not field a candidate in Embakasi South, but you realize that he supported silently the Wiper, member of parliament, and he ended up winning. So I think
Morade.
He was.
Was it Morade?
Morade something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or who beat Sumra?
Who beat Sumra? Yeah. So.
Motate? Somebody like that.
Yeah. Sure. So I think it is only a matter of time. We are going to see, and I don't think that Jubilee is going to win. It's not going there to win. It's going just to test waters and see whether they're able to convince, a sizable number of electorate.
Now, speaking about the hustler versus dynasty politics
Yes.
or narrative. It was obvious that when the narrative was first being pushed, the narrative was actually to, just taint or defame Raila Odinga
Yes.
and, of course, Gideon Moi. It was meant to target those two people.
That's true.
And President Kenyatta was not actually being slaughtered in that as per se when the narrative began, because in their idea, the contest was about Ruto, Raila, and Gideon in 2022. Hence, his intention was at first seen as targeting the two gentlemen who are considered in Kenya as political princes because of their fathers. But later on, it turned out to be not the same. And you find that even the president is now offended by the term and is now, smeared by this mud. What do you make of that? Was the intention of Ruto to stain even the president, or was it strategic, or was it just by mistake that now even the president is dragged into all this politics of dynasty?
Yes, you understand that after the handshake, I think things changed, and the president has been seen to, be lenient towards the former prime minister. And I think that is where the rain started beating, and Dr. Ruto realized that probably President Uhuru may not be reading in the same script with him. And that's why this narrative of hustlers versus dynasties started coming in. At first, as you said, it did not, involve the president. But after the handshake now, it's, to very many supporters of the deputy president, they think that what we are now having is a group of well-to-do, families that we have known their fathers and all that, and they are well established, and they are trying to fight one
political princes, as some of the Tanga team would like to call them.
Yes, and you see they are trying to now create that particular narrative. But you see that most politicians have come out clearly and said that it's not about where you come from. And that is what the president was saying, that leadership is not about who your father is, it's not about where you come from, it is about your urge to serve the people of Kenya.
Having said that, there is footage that I would like us also to look at so that we can proceed. Of the president, of course, making these remarks about the narrative or the school of thought that there are dynasties in Kenya. Maybe we take a listen.
Sijui sasa kama nitaambiwa naongea siasa, lakini I'm not, I promise. I have no such intention. But, when you hear people out there, they talk, huyu mtu fulani, dynasty hii, sijui dynasty hii. It's not about that. Leadership is not about where you were born. It's not about where you came from. It's not about the color of your skin. It is not about your tribe. It is just about a desire to serve, a desire to do good, a desire to make a difference in the lives of people. And anybody can do that. And why do I say that? I say that because even as we engage in our politics, let us do so in a decent manner.
Collins.
Yes.
Although the president does not mention names, we know who was in that audience.
Yes.
We know who was the audience there.
True.
And we know, it has been clear, the narrative, who is pushing the narrative.
The narrative, yes.
Clearly it's the Deputy President William Ruto and his 2022 campaign, campaign team.
Yes, so you realize that the president was directly addressing the Deputy President who was in that particular meeting. And you see, before the president comes out public to talk of an issue, that thing must have really you know, disturbed him for quite some time, and he sort of wanted to clear the air and tell his supporters that it's not about a few people coming together because of their background.
It was a very good opportunity as well.
Yes, it was a good opportunity for him.
The anniversary of the founding father.
Yes.
Who is also his father.
Who is also his actually. So it was the deputy president who was being, you know, spoken to. Yes. But of course, anytime you see the deputy president go out on functions, he would want to be seen as though he is still in good books with the president.
Exactly.
Yes. But in essence, you realize that the president did not mince his words. He said it as it is and told the deputy president that you need to focus on something else, stop this narrative of hustlers versus dynasties. We now need to talk development and what you can do for the people of this country instead of, you know, engaging in that kind of narrative.
You know, having said that, Collins, it's funny because whenever the deputy president stands to speak, he speaks about, he refrains himself from talking about, you know, 2022 politics or from, you know, directly attacking the president. Actually, most of his attacks go to ule mtu wa kitendawili.
Yes.
But then as you listen to him, there's some, he's playing soft, but there's a message going out. There's something hidden under the table. There's a card hidden under the table. But now, what has actually caught the attention of many people is that although the deputy president himself does not directly attack the president, but before he stands to speak, you know, those people who stand to speak clearly attack the president directly. And this has actually come out very clearly. And we've seen from the Kieleweke team recently, I think that was last week, about 4 or 5 days ago, the Nyeri, is it Nyeri South MP?
Nyeri
Wambogo, who came out very clearly and actually put a finger on this. And I would like us to take a look at that footage and listen into that footage, and then maybe you can respond to that.
And then in 1980, when I was preparing to do Standard 7.
And we also need to make it clear. People need to stop lying to us. I can't come here and say, me, I'll not do campaigns, but the people I have come with spend 30 minutes, an hour doing campaigns. Then me, when I stand up, I say, there's nothing wrong with doing, we're not doing campaigns, people need to stop doing campaigns. We are not fools. As Kenyans, I don't know about other people. Me, I'm only been chosen to represent the people of Nyeri Town constituency. The people of Nyeri Town constituency, who are represented by this group of people who are here, have said that they will not allow premature politics in Nyeri Town constituency.
Premature politics, is that what Ruto is playing?
Gunjiri Wambogo has a point there. I agree with him because every time the deputy president goes out on his quote-unquote development tours around the country, there are those people who accompany members of parliament, senators, and all that. And anytime they rise to speak, as Gunjiri puts it, every time they rise to speak, they play politics.
Yes.
But when the time comes for the deputy president to speak, he sort of tries to refrain from that. But already the message has been passed that, you know, we are here to do this development, but at the same time, we are also aware that there is some
asking for votes.
Asking for votes. So it goes without saying that, of course, he's engaging in 2022 politics, whether premature or not. It's the people of Kenya to judge.
Now, something else that have come out very clearly, and I would like to term it as some level of hypocrisy, especially when we talk about the hustler versus dynasty politics. Pardon my language, but I think some of the top politicians who are intending to vie for presidency or are trying to set themselves for the same, the deputy president himself being included, and the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, who the ANC leader, who has now come out very strongly to condemn the former prime minister. And always whenever he stands, he speaks about, you know, hawezi kuwa ndani ya serikali na ukue kwa opposition at the same time. You know, condemning, you know, Raila and also pushing the narrative towards the sides, although not directly, but on occasion, pushing the narrative of hustlers versus dynasties. These are people who have clearly benefited from the dynasties or political inheritance. Take, for instance, like Mudavadi. Mudavadi goes down in the Kenyan history as the first or the shortest serving vice president. He assumed office during the final weeks of President Moi's regime.
Yes.
Mudavadi is also notably one of the earlier beneficiaries of the culture of political inheritance, if we may say that, after succeeding his late father, who was the MP for Sabati in 1989. And at the same time, he was actually made to assume, he was actually given the docket that his father occupied when, at the time of his demise.
Yes.
What do we say about this? Is this politics of dynasty versus hustler purely hypocrisy that is being pushed about by these politicians?
It is hypocrisy. It is hypocrisy because you realize that if we are talking about dynasties, if you ask me, for now, Ruto is no longer an hustler. You cannot term him.
He's a billionaire.
He's a billionaire as we speak. So, coming out and telling us, because at the end of the day, you realize that even these people who are being referred to as dynasties have a journey.
Sure.
They have come through a journey, or even their fathers have struggled to be where they were, and they took over from there. So at that particular point, it is very, there is a thin line between Ruto calling himself a hustler and the issue of dynasty, because at the end of the day, all of them, if you ask me, are already dynasty. Even, Mudavadi, even Ruto is already building a household name for himself, and he's trying to be a dynasty. So he should stop this hustler narrative and start focusing on, on real issues that will help him clinch the 2022 seat. Because I can tell you for free that if he goes on talking about this hustler thing, it may not sell, because people at the end of the day will now start realizing that apart from where you come from, what else are you bringing to the people of this country? Yes, so it is not about that, and we should leave all this narrative. Let people have a playground where they can give their issues without focusing on who they are, where they come from, because this issue of dynasty for me doesn't hold water. It doesn't.
So it's a narrative that seems to be pushed, they're pushing around. And one would also want to ask this question, Collins. And I mean, I'm very glad that I'm talking to you, and I believe that your age actually is below 40. And that makes me very comfortable in terms of talking about the future of Kenyan politics, in terms of, are we discussing issues or are we discussing individuals?
Yes.
The kind of narrative that is being driven right now, we are actually being made to focus or to think or to make our decision in terms of who will we vote for come 2022 in regard to who is your father or who is your mother or what is your family.
Yes.
Is that, is that the direction that the Kenyan politics is going as a young politician or as a young person who has political interests or who understands the Kenyan politics? Is it the kind of politics that we want to do in Kenya going forward?
Going forward, I think we need to change, because for very many years we have always dwelt on our tribes, we have always dwelt on individuals, and we have forgotten to look at those particular people who have a real development agenda for this particular country. And as a country, we must realize that the issue of tribe does not help us at the end of the day. It is a particular individual who is willing to transform this country. And we must look at their track record. If you ask me, all these leaders who are saying that they want to vie for presidency in 2022 are people who have been in government before. So if we as
always
Kenyans,
been in government.
they have been in government. Some have been prime ministers, we have deputy prime minister, we have ministers. What have they done when they were in government?
Raila himself have served both in the Moi regime
and also in the Kibaki regime. So we must ask ourselves, what did they do when they were there? We must start looking at their track record. But you see, the kind of politics we have in Kenya as it stands, we just look at a person and we ask, what is the last name of that person? If it is Ruto, that is the Kalenjin kingpin. If it is Kenyatta, the Kikuyu kingpin, which we miss the point. We must start treating individuals as Kenyans and let them give us what they want to do for this country. And moving forward, I want to talk to the youth out there that it is high time we also realize that we have a role to play in this country. Our politics cannot be pegged on particular individuals. We must change the narrative. We must change. We cannot be hearing the same names every now and then. Let Kenyans come out and let us support them. Because youth, we are the highest population in this country. Definitely. So if we were to come up with our own person and push him, and we see that he has real issues, this country will really change. But this particular narrative of every now and then looking at the tribe of a person, we must change that as a country, and we must focus on real issues that will transform this country.
I want us to take a short break, but then before we do that, I would just like to draw your thought a little bit on, the BBI.
Yes.
Is the BBI really for Kenyans? Listening to the guys, of course, campaigning for the BBI, and the BBI probably takes us back to the 9 points that were raised during the handshake, which at that time really were matters, of course, because it is after the handshake that Kenya realized some calm. Kenya was really taking a very ugly direction, scary direction. But then after the handshake and the proposal for the BBI, then we saw calm. And there were points there. Most of them standing out were political reforms, I would say, electoral reforms that were proposed by the NASA camp. What do you make of the BBI going forward? We know the report is yet to come out to be made public, but what do you make of the whole narrative of the BBI?
The BBI is an initiative that for me does not appeal to me, because you realize that it is only pegged on expanding the executive, if the talk that we are hearing is anything to go by. Every time I hear those who support the BBI speak, they will talk about expanding the executive in a bid to have an inclusive government. But inclusivity is not about having individuals because they are from different tribes at the top there. That will not solve the problem. We need to look at the real issues that are affecting Kenyans.
And what are the real issues?
And the real issues are what, for me, if you were to ask me to choose between Punguza Mizigo and Building Bridges Initiative, I'll go for Punguza Mizigo. Because the issues that we have is a high wage bill in this country. We spend much of our money in recurrent expenditure.
But the BBI also proposes for a cut down in terms of reducing the number of constituencies, hence, of course, still.
But you see, we are yet to see what they have for us, right? But, I have not had Honorable Raila Odinga go out in public and talk about that. What they have been focusing a lot more is only on positions, which they miss the point. If they want to appeal to the Kenyans, then they must start giving the entire proposals that they have.
But they had a committee that was going around the country.
The committee was there. But let me tell you one thing for free. At the end of the day, this, if you ask me from where I sit, and in my view, this was just public relations.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, what will happen is that we'll have a referendum. So that was the end point of this particular initiative. It wasn't really about all these particular issues.
So it's a means just to justify the end.
Yes, to justify the end. That is true. That we went, we talked to the public.
But then someone would want to say the same in regard to the Punguza Mzigo, because honestly speaking, many Kenyans, if you ask them, they will tell you, I never saw Ekuru Aukot come to us and propose to us and tell us, hey, this is what is happening, this is what we want to make. And now they're moving in counties. They've actually been given the mandate. They're moving in county assemblies, and they're presenting the document for discussion in county assemblies, of course, with the blessing of the IEBC.
Yes, it is true that Ekuru Aukot did not have proper, engagement with the public. And I want, at this point, to also blame the Kenyan media to some point, because they didn't give him enough airtime at that particular time. Ekuru Aukot started getting airtime the moment he, the IBC passed that particular initiative and gave them a go-ahead. Otherwise, from the onset, he really struggled to get the attention of the public. But at the same time, you see, even though he did not go out there to talk to the people, those of us who have read the proposals by the Punguza Mizigo, will agree that they are proposals that, you know, resonate very well with the common mwananchi, because it's talking about reducing the number of elected members,
reducing the number of elected members of parliament to represent people, but we are talking about one representative per constituency, which
at the end of the day, you look.
I would say one would want to argue that that actually undermines the spirit of devolution. We are going back up there.
At the end of the day, we still have the MCAs. What is their role in the county, in the counties? They are in their county assemblies to push for agendas in those. In fact, what we are having in this country are duplication of duties, right? Because every time you go, sometimes we go asking, who is building this road? You are being told it's the national government, but at the same time, the MP wants to take credit, the MCA wants to. So there is duplication of duties. Let the MCAs who are at the ground there do their thing and work together with the county governments. But this issue of MPs, what we are now having in our National Assembly sometimes leaves a lot to be desired, because we have particular members of parliament who just take advantage and go there to get allowances, and there is nothing that they do to the public. So I support Ekuru Courts in calling for a reduction of these elected members of parliament.
Well, Collins, we take a short break now. Viewer, if you are just joining us, you're watching GBS Morning Extra, and we are with us in studio today, Collins Bore, who is a political analyst. Remember to keep the conversation going. Hashtag GBS Morning Extra. Also, at Kokgwen or Ochoro, at Bore Collins. We take a short break. We'll be right back after this.